Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the SHERA portal training. Next slide. So today all participants will remain on mute. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A chat feature. And if you submit a question, we'll have someone respond either in the chat or we will read the question aloud to get you an answer during our Q&A portion of the session. Next slide. This call is being recorded, so if you do not consent to being recorded, please drop from this call and the recording link will be provided to you after the call. So today we will hear from Chris DeVore, who will provide us some information regarding the CyberSense support. And then we'll also have Andreas Gomez and Brian Phillips, who will walk us through the SHERA portal demo and let you all know how to use the features. And then myself and Tisha Glenn, I'll be moderating today. So Andreas, Brian, and myself are all from Accenture. And Accenture and CyberSense have been helping DHCD with the rollout of the SHERA program. So next I'll walk through our journey for today. We'll begin with the training objectives and goals, move into the SHERA overview, and then we'll get into the demo, which will cover account creation, the need help let us know section, program information page, owner/property manager homepage, and then how to manage your profile. So the purpose of our training today is to provide you all with step-by-step instructions for using the online portal to register your property and to apply for SHERA emergency rental assistance. And our goal is to provide guidance and to better support any owners and property managers and staff who are eligible for SHERA and preparing to apply. All right, so now we'll get into the SHERA overview. I won't spend too much time on this slide. I'm sure many of you have seen it before. It's the SHERA owner journey. Today we'll be covering step 1, which is how to register on the SHERA portal, as well as step 4, which is how to submit an application on the SHERA portal. And now I'll turn it over to Brian and Andreas for the SHERA portal demo.
Great. Thanks, Antisha. All right, so what we're looking at here on Andre's screen is the homepage for the SHERA portal. I'm just going to give a brief overview of this kind of landing page here. You can see welcome to the SHERA portal and a blue link in the middle that says log in. This is where you can actually log into the SHERA portal once you've created an account. In addition, lower on the page, you can submit support tickets, which we'll get into later. You can see it says need help. You can go to program information via a link at the top of the screen, as well as see any relevant news and announcements that might be there. And then at the top of the screen, we have a couple options of signing up and logging in. And like I said, the program information. So the first thing that we're going to do is get into signing up for the program in the first place. So Andres went ahead, he clicked the sign up button. And so now he's going to start registering as an individual user. He's going to fill in his name, his email, he'll choose a password, and then he'll enter in the tax ID or TIN of any one of the projects which he's affiliated with. And that should be part of the invitation that you receive to participate in the SHERA program. It'd be the number on the W-9. So you can see that in addition, Andres also had to choose what type of user he is. He chose that he's an owner. He entered in a first name and last name, like I said, an email, and agreed to the terms and policies. So we can go ahead and click register account. And when he does that, he gets a message just asking him to confirm his email. So he can go ahead and access his email address and check to see if he's received anything. You can see he received a new email, and it's from Massachusetts SHERA. And it just has a link right in the email that says, please confirm your account by clicking this link or by clicking confirm account. Now, once you've confirmed your account, you will be taken to a login page. It says, thank you for confirming. Please click here to log in. And now Andres is able to continue with the login process with the account that he just set up. So once he's logged in, he's just going to need to enter a mobile phone number for two-factor authentication, just for security purposes. He's going to go ahead and type in his cell phone number and receive an SMS text message, which will send him a verification code. And from there, he'll be able to be completely logged into the portal. Great. So from here, you can see it says welcome at the top right because he's now logged in. So from this point on, this is kind of your home page to the SHERA portal now that you're logged in. So Andres is going to click on owner section at the top right, which will allow him to continue working on within the SHERA program. So as we can see here, it says owner main information. This is the kind of landing page for the owner section itself. This is going to be your launch pad for most of the activities you'll need to do. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of some of the things that you can do before we get into anything in specific. The first thing is that you can manage your profile with the manage profile button. This lets you do things like changing passwords and changing phone numbers affiliated with your account. You can import units and tenants, which is where you can actually submit applications. At the bottom, you can add properties which are actually associated with you. And then something to note that I didn't mention earlier is that within this test and demo that Andres and I are doing, it's a little bit different than what you might be seeing in production. So I want to call out that in addition to importing units and tenants, you'll also be able to review and sign owner agreements and compliance certifications, which we'll go over a little bit later. So the first thing we'll do is just manage the profile, which I mentioned is just, it's nice and simple. It's basically just an opportunity to change your password or change phone numbers associated. As you can see where Andres is hovering his mouse, if you ever needed to change your password or phone number, that's right where it lives. Great. So the next thing we're going to do is register a property. In order to do that, we're going to go ahead and click on the Add Project or Property button from the owner main page. And so Andres is going to enter the project ID that has been sent along to him with the invitation to participate, as well as the tax ID. And something to note here is that state-aided developments have property IDs from the CPS inventory system in the format of 8 digits. Where federal units have property IDs from HUD's public housing information system in the format of MA and then 9 digits. And for this testing purposes, Andres just has some test numbers that he'll be entering. Great. You can see that at the green, it says this property was successfully added. And then where Andres is highlighting at the bottom, you can actually see the demo property that he's got. So he can complete some further registration tasks by actually clicking on the View Project Details tab. Great. All right. So once you've added a property, you can do a few different things. You can view project details. You can update your W-9s or input one. You can import units and tenants. You can request direct deposit information. And as I mentioned before, the compliance certification and owner agreement, which we can actually see on this screen, which is great. So the first thing we're going to do is do the W-9 information. So Andres is going to click Update W-9, where he can choose to either be submitting a new W-9 or an existing one. In this case, he's just going to be submitting a new one. And then he's going to click the Release of Information Acceptance to proceed. Great. And then on this page, again, he's just going to be filling out first name, last name, business name, his federal tax classification, an address, and then the social security number or employee identification number associated with his account. So here Andres has to just do some certifications of him providing accurate information. He's going to provide his name, which serves as a signature, and then a validation, again, through a mobile number or an email, whichever he wants. He chose mobile number, so now he just needs to fill in a phone number to provide the system. And then once he receives a verification code, that'll be the final step for the W-9. Awesome. You can see that he received that he's complete, as well as a confirmation number, which is good to just keep for your own records. Awesome. So Andres, we return to the owner section. So the next thing we'll do is go into the direct deposit. Here you can use this link to request electronic transfer of any arrearage payments and to enter information about the bank account which you want funds to be sent to. Something to note here is that ACH payment is currently the only payment offering for SHERA, so you'll need to complete the request for direct deposit. Overall, the steps are very similar to what we just saw for the W-9. Andres is going to choose whether this is a new request for direct deposit or if he needs to change information about anything. So we'll just select new request. We'll do our information release acceptance. And then once again, he'll be entering payee information, tax IDs, addresses, contact information, and then in addition, specific for direct deposit, what sort of account this is going to be receiving, whether it's a checking or savings account, the individual or business name, bank name, routing, and account numbers. And because, as I mentioned, this is kind of a lower environment, we don't have a test bank, quote unquote, to be going through this, but you'd go through the same process of you'd validate through either an email or phone number, you'd do an electronic signature, and then you'd finish the process. Great. So next we'll go into the compliance certification, also on the right side of the screen. So from the view project details page, he's just clicking on the compliance certification form, which links to the online form. So here he's just going to need to start signing the document, as you can see. So he'll need to enter in his name and an optional email if he wanted to. You can see that the form gives you a little bit of kind of tutorialization of how to actually use the form. Basically, that anywhere that it has that red flag that we can see at the top left, that's mandatory information to fill out. And if Andres were to scroll through, you can see other little red flags throughout that will kind of jump to the next thing that he might need to fill out. Andres, do you mind if we fill out just this one, just for the sake of showing the completion form as well? So you can see the red flag kind of jumping around so that he makes sure that he fills out what's mandatory. All right, Anders, are you able to scroll down a little bit? It looks like it might just be cutting off on the screen a little bit. Or if not, maybe if you can zoom out on your browser a little. I don't know if it's just on my end. Well, either way, what I'm trying to show is just that at the bottom of the screen, it just has an opportunity to submit a signature that he provided. Oh, yeah, this is great. Thank you, Andres. And now he just needs to validate basically his signature like he did the other forms by entering in a phone number so he can receive a confirmation. We might be just running into a bug with the lower environment. So, yeah, it looks like we might have just run into a little hiccup with the lower environment, so I wouldn't stress about it, Andres. The point being just that when he fills out that information, he just needs to provide an e-signature online, and then we'll provide a phone number so that it can verify that he is who he's saying he is. So we'll just return back to the view project details page again. Great. And next we'll go over the owner agreement. The process is exactly like the compliance certification. If you go ahead and click on that, Andres, once again, you'll just need to click sign document to begin the owner agreement process. He'll need to enter his name. And again, it gives you that little tutorialization of how to actually go about the process. Once again, he would just need to enter in everywhere that there's a red flag, because those are mandatory fields to fill out. And then once he completes the process, he would just need to enter in again his phone number and signature. So I'm not going to have him walk through the same process, but that's just where the owner agreement also lives in the same screen. Okay, so the next portion is kind of the meat of what you'd be doing within the SHERA portal and the owner section itself, and that being submitting an application. So in order to do that, Andres is going to click import units/tenants. And this is going to bring you to a screen that basically gives you instructions on how you can go about importing the tenants that need to apply for rent arrearages. So if Andres, yeah, right where he's hovering his mouse, there's an Excel template where he can fill out and which he can fill out and use to provide tenant information. So Andres, if you want to kind of pull that up just to show folks what it looks like. Perfect. So you can see he just downloaded a template, and all it is just an Excel sheet that he would just fill out where each row he would use to submit for each tenant household. So if he wanted to enter somebody's name, enter somebody's rent arrearages that they amount or that they owe, each row would represent a single tenant household. So you can also use any tenant form that you might have on hand from your own systems. In general, we recommend using the file template because, as we'll see when we proceed to the next few steps, the upload process is going to be a lot simpler. So Andres, you can...
do you mind if I just jump in? I just want to make sure that when we're doing this part of the application, that you answer the questions the way that they appear on the tenant certification file. So any information regarding the tenant demographic is responded to in the same way it appears on their tenant certification form.
Okay. Thanks, Antasia. All right, so Andres went ahead, he clicked start mapping. So now he has the opportunity to actually upload the template that he's got. And you can see he just selected a file and it's just loading into the system. And once this loads in, we're going to be presented a screen with kind of two columns that are going to kind of be looking at each other just while this is loading. There we go. Okay, so now we see that an upload was successful. 3 records were found. That's because on the template that Andre submitted, he basically submitted for 3 tenants. So we can go ahead and click continue. And here is where I mentioned we're going to see 2 columns here. The left represents the column headers within the template itself, and the right represents what the portal is actually looking for. And this is why we recommend using that template that Andre showed you the link for. You can see that the left and the right match each other one-to-one. So if they didn't match each other for any reason, you would have to just click and drag and drop to associate the correct columns. So Andres is going to kind of show how that works. You just choose any header that you want and then drop it to wherever you need. So it's a little bit of a manual process to do this. Now, fortunately, if you use the actual template itself, you can click this auto match button. And you can see it just associates everything because all of the names are directly next to each other and match exactly. And something worth calling out in case you're wondering why some of these fields are red, it's just because some of the fields are not mandatory when you're filling out the template itself or associating them with the portal. Things like middle initials and things like that. So Andres, I think we can go ahead and continue. Great. So this next page is just a verification step before completing the submission. Any row that doesn't have any information or has incorrect information is going to be highlighted as yellow. As you can see, there is one highlighted row. And Andres can scroll over until he sees a single cell that's highlighted in red. That's basically the actual cell that has an issue. So you can see that this one just doesn't have a head of household date of birth. So we can fill that in. Excellent. And then he can just basically run a recheck to see if there are any issues when he clicks that check button. Okay, and you can notice that now that row is no longer yellow. So again, if there are any issues, the row would be highlighted in yellow. Now that there aren't any issues, you can see that there are 0 invalid records and 3 valid records. So Andres can go ahead and hit finish. Right, and this is the final page that will confirm it and upload the information to the system itself. Once you've gone through this, the way that I like to put it is this is like you've put your application in the mail into like a mail drop box. Once you've hit submit, you can't reach your hand back into the mailbox and take it back. It's already been submitted and it's within the postal service. That's just the equivalent I use. Once you hit send here, which Andres will do, the information is on the way to the system and your application for these tenants has been submitted. Great. So I think the only two things that we really need to look over next, Andres, are the need help sections and the program information sections. So Andres is actually on the production site right now, the live site, just so that we can show exactly how these function within production. So you can see down at the center of the screen, it says need help, let us know. He's going to go ahead and click more. Beautiful. And this is just an opportunity to fill out a service request in case you run into any issues, and this could be any sort of issues. There are a few different options of, if you don't mind clicking the drop down, property registration issues, program or policy questions, technical difficulties, or other. So we just ask that you'd fill out this form as completely as possible. And in your kind of free text box down at the bottom, just make sure to include your property or tax ID and your project ID if you've already registered. This will just help make getting you the help that you need as quick as possible. Great. And the last thing we want to review is just the program information page. So Andres is going to hit program information from the top of the screen. And this links you to a separate mass.gov site if he goes ahead and clicks that link. And this is a resource for all of the latest documents which an owner or property manager may need when they're working with the SHERA program, as well as just giving a brief overview of the SHERA program itself. You can see as Andre scrolls through, there's lots and lots of information available. There's many documents available as well as translations. So Andres, if you don't mind. Oh yeah, that's a good point to bring up. I see as you're highlighting, is that also in addition, if you ever need to review any of this training material that Andres and I and Tija are going over right now. There are a few recordings available, and I believe that this recording will be made available as well. Then if he scrolls to the very top, you can actually see there's a link that says the SHERA portal homepage can be found here, and that'll just bring you right back to the SHERA homepage that you had been working on. So now we've gone over need help, we've gone over program information, we've gone over how to create your account, how to submit your W-9 and direct deposit, how to fill out owner compliance forms, as well as the owner agreements, or the compliance forms, I'm sorry, as well as the owner agreements, and then how to submit your actual application via uploading your tenant template. So, Antija, unless you want to jump in about anything, I think that would conclude our technical demo.
I see a question in the chat that's asking if you can repeat the Excel file upload.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Sure. So, Andres, yeah, let's take it from the top. This is where you look when you've just logged in. You would go to owner section. If you hadn't already, you would just add your property. But if you have, you can go ahead and hit view project details. And then you would click import units/tenants. Now from there, there's a link just within the text there that says follow these steps to ... Yep, right where Andres was just showing. So if you don't, that's where you would download the tenant or download the template that you could upload. Once you've filled out the template, you can click start mapping like Andres did, and he can select a file. And this would just pop up, yeah, your document browser. And then it'll detect how many records or how many tenants you're submitting your application for. You can hit continue. And once again, if you're using the actual tenant template download within the SHERA portal, you could just click auto match here. This would save you a lot of time. But if you're using something from your own personal systems, then you'd have to drag and drop to associate with each portal field that's mandatory. So you'd have to drag and drop whatever your field is with whatever the SHERA portal field is. So, you know, for instance, if yours says first name and the SHERA portal says head of household first name, you would need to associate those two. And then once you've completed all of those actions, you can go ahead and click continue. And again, this is just the validation of data to see if there are any issues. We've got one row highlighted in yellow, which means there's an issue in that row. There was one field specifically that was highlighted in red, which shows the field with the issue. Once that's corrected, you can update by scrolling back over to the left. Yep. And clicking update. And you can see again, 0 invalid records, 3 valid records. So we'll hit finish. And again, this is just the final step. You're confirming that 3 records are going to be imported and that all of the information is accurate to the best of your knowledge. And this is when you've actually submitted your application and it is no longer editable. And so that's the whole Excel template tenant application portion again.
Thank you. I think we can flip over back to the presentation quickly.
Okay, so
Can we go to slide 11? So back a couple of slides. Yep. Okay. So I just want to walk through the trainings. So this is the 3rd training in this training session or series. We started with the program overview just to introduce what SHERA, what the SHERA program was, and what the program and policy would be. We moved into the SHERA application readiness session to discuss how to begin communicating with tenants and preparing your application. And we have just concluded the technical session, or we are wrapping up the technical session where we're walking through how to use the portal. Next slide. So the next steps are to watch out for the SHERA registration invitation email you should receive soon. Then review the SHERA application data. This is that Excel file that Andreas and Brian walked us through. There's also an application template listed on the SHERA website that walks through the various information that you will need to include as part of that Excel upload. And then lastly, please send and share the owner letter to tenants and the tenant certifications if you have not already. These files have been updated recently, so if you have sent anything to the tenant, let's just make sure that it is the most recent as we move forward with additional tenants as well. Next slide. So as they kind of walk through the resources are the SHERA portal has an information tab, which includes the policy guidance, owner FAQs, notification to tenant instructions, and various form letter templates. And then we have support and questions. So there is a ticket support system on the portal if you have any questions. Next slide. And now I'll turn it over to Chris to walk us through the support we'll receive from CyberSense.
So CyberSense is going to provide office style hours or office hour style to housing authorities, and they can help you with registering, preparing and submitting your claims and responding to requests for additional information. You'll be getting something from CyberSense either through constant contact, email, advising you of the hours that are available, and a sign up Google Sheet will be provided so that you can sign up. They also will provide a webinar training on how to prepare the applications, including extracting the tenant info from your management systems, your whatever your tenant management system is, PHA Web, PHA Net, MRI, whatever. And also how to convert files to the CSV for upload, how to do mail merge for tenant communications, and just general tech support on the system itself. CyberSense will notify you of the webinar trainings. All of this notification should come out over the next few days, week or so. So watch for it, and they're available for help. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Andrea, can we go to the next slide? Now we'll open the floor for Q&A. I see a couple of questions in the chat. So there was a question, should we be registering as the LHA or as an individual? Brian, do you want to speak to this one? What the difference between like registering as an individual is and registering as a property or an LHA?
I think I would consider that more of a process question, Antija. I don't know if there's somebody more qualified to answer that.
Chris, can you take this one?
Yeah, the housing authority, I'm sorry, Antija, will you please repeat the question?
Of course, it is, should we be registering as the LHA or as an individual?
Yeah, the housing authority is the owner. And so you register as the owner. The tax ID is the housing authority's ID. So there's nothing that's individual about how you register that way. The project manager is the person that is entering the information, if it's the executive director or somebody that has been designated on staff.
Thank you. So our next question is, can direct deposits be made to different bank accounts for each project/building?
Yeah, so that wouldn't be an issue. So when you're in your owner section, if you have multiple projects associated with you, you can just choose on the one that you want to update specifically. So say I have project A and project B. I would click on view project A, and then I can upload or update direct deposit information. Once I've completed that, I can go back to project B and update the direct deposit for that project as well.
Thanks, Brian. Our next question is, can we refer Section 8 landlords to this portal? Chris, can you take this one?
I'm sorry, Antija, I don't know the absolute answer to this question. We can take it offline and respond in the frequently asked questions. I know that you know, tenants are available. It depends on the type of program, I believe, but I would prefer not to answer this right now.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is there a deadline for housing authorities to register for participation? My directory is not sure if they will participate until they see how many households wind up with arrears due to unreported income during recertification.
There isn't a deadline as of right now. We're not aware of, there hasn't been a deadline announced by anyone at this point. I would encourage housing authorities to send out the letter asking if people have unreported income to come in and report it. There are 2 letters that have been provided through the system, which you can find on the in that list of documents. And as quickly as you can do that, then you know you'd be prepared. But right now there is not a deadline for when you have to submit the information.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is regarding the SHERA registration invitation email. Is DHCD sending this email to LHAs, and will it list all the property ID numbers? This would be great as they would all be in one place.
There will be an invitation that is coming out from DHCD, and I believe that we haven't landed on whether or not we will be able to issue all the property addresses, or if we would just be sending one invitation out to housing authorities with instructions about what the property ID, where the property ID comes from, and what it, how it should appear. So right now it's in discussion.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other questions? I don't see any in the chat at the moment.
Actually, Antija, can I go back for a second? The property IDs for your state program are going to be your CPS ID, property IDs. And for your federal developments, it's going to be your PIC numbers, your MA whatever, 06 dash whatever it is. Just as a tip for what those property IDs will look like.
Thanks, Chris. That's helpful. Any other questions or part of the demo that we would like clarification? So I see a question, were the property ID numbers preloaded into the system during development?
Property IDs, the property information will be provided into the system, yes.
Any other questions? All right, well, if there are no more questions at this time, I want to thank all of our speakers for their time today, and I want to thank you all for joining today. And again, if you have any questions that come up after this session, please feel free. Oh, sorry, we have a question that just came in. Can you enter and save a partial application?
So I can touch on that. You can enter. You can't necessarily save a partial application, but you don't have to submit a single application with every single tenant within the property. You can resubmit a second one. So basically you could submit, 50 applications all for the same project, each with a single tenant. Now we wouldn't recommend that. That wouldn't be the most efficient way to do it. But you can, if you've only gathered information for say 20 of those people, you could submit an application for those 20 and then submit a second one later on with, however many more you need to. So you can't submit, one for everybody and then come back later because it just lives on an Excel sheet. I mean, so you can, be updating your Excel sheet as you go. But once the upload process itself is only about 3 steps. So it's not something that you would save and come back to.
Thanks, Brian. So the next question is this the final training? Is this the final training session being offered by Accenture/GACD, or is this scheduled to repeat? So this is the last training session in this series. There may be additional training sessions if required, but CyberSense will be providing support throughout the application process. And then the recordings to the 3 sessions that have been held are on the portal. Well, this will be the 3rd one, and we'll have that on the portal soon. The next question is, what if we apply for money and then find out RAF paid their arrearage?
If that's the case, you will be required to refund, to send the money back through the SHERA program.
Any other questions? All right. I am going to drop a couple of links into the chat. Oh, sorry. So is that double payment? If a double payment were to occur, how would the LHA return the money to SHERA?
We will be issuing instructions on how to do this.
So in the future, we'll be able to provide that.
Yes.
Thank you. So if you all want to find the template that we walked through or discussed today, as well as the letters and the tenant certification and the recordings to the trainings that have already taken place and where the recording to this training will be, please visit this program information page to use the information that we have provided. And then there's also a link if you have any additional questions or if you run into any issues as you are applying, and I'll drop that into the chat as well. So here's the link to the service request portal. I see another question. Are tenants with unreported income found by housing authorities eligible? So are tenants with unreported income that is found by the housing authorities eligible for SHERA?
Yes, they are. If it is during the period of April 1st of 2020 to March 31st of 2021. So you would calculate the rent, see what the amount is that's owed, and that amount is eligible for SHERA payment. Again, there are 2 letters for housing authorities to send to their tenants. One is announcing the SHERA program to people who have they have arrearages, and explaining to them that they have to sign the tenant certification. And there is a second letter that goes out to other residents that you have not recertified this year, and to ask them to report any unreported income, as it would be eligible for this year repayment if it's during that period of time, so that they can come in and you can conduct a recertification on them. There is no requirement that a recertification has to be current. It's just that if you want to be able to assist residents that may not have reported for whatever reason during that period of time, and you would find it at your next annual recertification and charge them retroactive. This way, by being proactive, the SHERA funds can cover that retroactive cost.
All right, so again, I've dropped in the chat a link to the portal program information page where you can find this recording and other materials and templates. And I've also added a link to where you can submit a service request if you run into any issues while submitting your application. We have about 15 minutes left. If there are any other questions? Well, if there are no questions at this time, again, thank you all for your time.